Welcome to the Quantum Biology Collective podcast, where we break down the practical strategies of this emerging science, starting with healthy light habits and going wherever the quantum superhighway takes us. This is your host, executive and life coach Meredith Oak, with a quick reminder that podcasts are conversations, not consultations, and definitely not medical advice. We're here for informational purposes only. To follow up with our amazing guests, please do check out the show notes, and to stay in the loop with the QBC podcast, join our email list, also linked in the show notes. So we all know that when we have really serious health issues or symptoms that are really affecting the quality of our lives, we become very proactive in, most of us become. Ideally, we become very proactive in trying to find solutions and trying to find the root cause of these problems. But what about for the people who are just, wanting to be health conscious, wanting to feel pretty good, wanting to look good, be a healthy body weight, be generally healthy, but they're not driven by, a need to heal something really drastic? Does optimizing our circadian biology have an effect for those people? So our guest today is in that situation, and his answer is yes. He's a great case study because he's somebody who went from pretty good to great. He was, he went to the gym, he ate really well. He did all of the traditional things that most people would say, okay, you do all these things, you are healthy. He was doing all these things. He thought he was healthy. He, just like Zaid last week, right, listened to a podcast and was like, there's a little more to this. And he had a friend who also really encouraged him to go down this rabbit hole. So our guest today is Jeff Gibson. Jeff worked in IT and, was a fit, quote unquote, healthy person, and went down the path of trying to understand how light and circadian rhythm affect our biology, our health, our sleep, all of the things. And so even though he had no real pressing health issues, he decided to give it a try. And what he learned and what he uncovered not only propelled him into a completely new level that he didn't even know he was capable of reaching, it also sent him on a path to become deeply passionate about sharing this information with other people. So Jeff and his partner, Daniel White, who's been on the podcast, and their team at the new Quantum Lee Foundation are launching the CRD Challenge, which is the Circadian Rhythm Disruption Challenge. It is going on right now. It's thecrdchallenge.com. And they have put this program together as a way to educate and inform health-aware people who don't know anything about light. And so they've worked really hard on it. It's a great program. I highly encourage you to check it out and send it around to your friends and family as well, because that CRD challenge is the result of just one guy having a chat with his buddy and then listening to a podcast. And now a year later, look what they made. So enjoy this episode and enjoy Jeff's story. It's a very fun one. And of course, visit boncharge.com with QBC in the discount box at checkout for a discount. I think it might be even higher right now. So give it a whirl if you need anything in the red glasses, red light department. Okay, everybody, enjoy. Hey, Jeff Gibson, welcome to the Quantum Biology Collective podcast. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story today. And what I love about your story is that a lot of people really have to hit the wall before they open their minds to new things. But your story is more like an okay to good to great, which I love. So tell us a little how you got your mind blown and how it changed your life.
Yeah. So I guess it all started last year. A friend of mine that I played tennis with, Tyler, he recommended the podcast to me. We kind of talk about health stuff. Occasionally, like Huberman comes up occasionally, and he mentioned, you got to listen to this podcast. Andrew Huberman gets schooled. And that's all he said. And then I went home and I listened to it, and it was the most mind-expanding, exploding podcast I've ever heard. By the way, for those listening, it's called Tetragrammaton. It's a podcast by Rick Rubin, and he had on Andrew Huberman and Jack Kruse. I'd never heard of Jack Kruse. I'd never heard of circadian biology in terms of its impact. So basically, the long story short of this was that it explained the leading cause of chronic disease on this planet today, on most chronic disease, is because of circadian rhythm disruption, which is recently been exacerbated by all of the blue light that's become prevalent on our screens and our LED bulbs. And this information hit me like a ton of bricks. It just explained everything like Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. So it just really resonated with me. And I started talking to my friend about this, and he was like, the formula is simple, dude. All you have to do is go outside in the morning for 20, 30 minutes and then block blue light in the evening. Wear these blue blockers. He told me which ones to get. And I was still so skeptical because my friend told me when he started doing this stuff like 6 years ago, living this circadian friendly lifestyle, he said his anxiety went away. He said he lost weight without working out. He said he feels like an entirely new person. And when you hear stories like that, you brush them off like this can't be true. And so I told myself, I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to do kind of like my own little challenge here. I'm going to disprove my friend. There's no way this can possibly work, or everybody would know about it, right? And so I said, for 30 days, I'm going to do the formula outside in the morning, light breaks without sunglasses, occasionally throughout the day, and wearing blue blockers at night. And I set out to disprove this, but I was dead wrong. Like, it actually worked. I started feeling, just as my friend described, like a new person. It's almost like your energy levels get dialed up 2 or 3% every single day. And it just, it doesn't happen overnight, but over the course of a month, I felt like a completely new person because I had been circadian disrupted unknowingly for the last couple decades of my life. My life before this was basically get up. I work from home, get up with 5 minutes to spare, just enough time to get a cup of coffee, grab something to eat, and go straight to my desk, where I have a sea of monitors here, like 7 monitors on my desk, all blasting artificial full factory setting light in my face. And I didn't know that had any effect on my body at all. And then at the tail end of the day, I would work out and things like this after their kid goes to bed at like 7:30 p.m. and just in the artificial light in the evening, and then coming home and working on my computers until midnight. And it was really, I had no idea that was causing some of the inflammation. I was kind of gaining weight unless I really worked out hard. And I guess the improvements that I saw were just greater energy, like reduced anxiety, just more ease and presence throughout the day a lot of the time. And I also ended up losing about 35 pounds over the course of, several months after doing this without any change to diet or exercise. In fact, the only change to my exercise routine is that I work out less now, and I feel like I'm in better shape than I was before. And, since that time, I've been kind of on a mission, like, how do I get other people like my friends and family members to try these simple lifestyle changes? Like, it's really hard to get through to people, as you know, Meredith. Like, we try to explain this and everybody's stuck in their just default mode way of living that they don't even want to consider that orange glasses in the evening could actually do anything for their health. So they don't even try it. It just seems weird. It seems like a conspiracy theory almost to believe that we've manufactured we spectrally engineered our lights and screens in such a way that's this detrimental to the entire population. Billions of people are doing it, and nobody realizes that it's detrimental to our health. It seems like a wild thing to fathom. Most people won't even let their minds go there because it seems too far-fetched, and so they won't try these things. But so continuing on with the story, like, I have just been consumed. But there has to be a way to get through to people. And I was just contemplating this day after day. And one night I was laying in bed and just an idea hit me, kind of like a bolt of lightning. It just made the hairs on my back of my neck stand up for the CRD challenge. Like there has to be like a social movement aspect of this to where people feel like they're a part of something so that they don't have to kind of go about this on their own the way that I felt that I did. I knew one other person on the planet that was wearing these silly looking orange glasses in the evening. And so I felt like a crazy person, like I'm doing this weird thing that nobody else is doing. And I wasn't part of a community where a bunch of other people were doing this. So when that idea came to me, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to ever make this work. I think I talked to so many people. I talked to you and Kathleen at the QBC about this, and like everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody wishes me luck. Like we wish you the best. We'll do anything to support you. But nobody has the time or the inclination to actually do the ton of work that's required to make this work. And then luckily through a QBC event, I met Daniel White online. We started talking and then we had a meeting and I pitched him this idea for the CRD challenge. And he was like, oh my God, dude, this is it kind of, it resonated with him too. And he's like, I want to do anything I can to be a part of this. Let's make this work. And since that time, we have been working with our new friends, Avi and Lauren Jacobson, who they basically came online to the realization of all this light environment and circadian rhythm disruption lifestyle around the same time as I did a couple years ago. And they have some philanthropic endeavors that they have money set aside to for things just like this. And they were like, let's make this happen. So we've all kind of teamed up and we've been building this kind of free, completely free online educational community where we teach people not only the formula, like it's basically as simple as getting outside more without sunglasses and then blocking blue light in the evening, but there's an understanding that needs to be installed in your brain because there's 1,000 questions you're going to have. Like, do I need to switch out my light bulbs, or what's the best blue blockers to get? Are the clear ones as good? The clear blue blockers as good as the orange ones? You're going to have 1,000 questions. And so we'll have a community that will be able to answer all those burning questions that come with the paradigm shifting mindset of, changing the way you think about light. It's not just a flick of the switch on the wall. It actually makes a huge difference to your physiology to simply change the color temperature of your bulbs and screens in the evening. And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're going. We have over, I think, as of the time of this, 1,300 people signed up in our free school community worldwide. So it's kind of cool. There's people from literally all over the globe, so many countries. And it's really cool. I can't believe that this idea is actually coming to fruition. And we're finally going to be able to, I don't know, make this maybe kind of a global movement that people are going to encourage their friends and family to try this same thing. It's going to be an ongoing challenge where we're going to encourage people to do the same thing I did, put it to the test. You can call all this CRD stuff, crazy or outlandish, or there's no way that could possibly make a difference in my life. But until anybody out there puts it to the test, you can't know that for sure. Like there's been so many stories. We can get into that.
What you were saying earlier too, it's that the thought that you first had, right? Where it's like, if this was true, I would know about it.
Right.
Right. I had that thought as well. I was like, this can't be as important as this guy is telling me, because if it was, we would all know, right? Like it would be like the warning label on a pack of cigarettes or wearing your seatbelt. We would have some idea, like somebody would have said something. And then you look into it and you realize actually know. It is that important. And nobody told us.
Exactly.
Nobody said
Yeah.
anything. Like nobody's connected the dots. The people doing the research are not the same people making the light bulbs, are not the same people making the computers. None of them talk to each other. And we've just ended up in this situation where we are chronic users of toxic devices and toxic frequencies all the time, and we have no idea. No idea.
Exactly. Yeah. And most centralized medical doctors that we go to for our health advice don't know either, which makes it even more hard to fathom, because if this were true, our medical experts would know about this, but unfortunately they're not taught a lot of the new science in circadian biology yet, because it hasn't been really established. And a lot of that doesn't make it to the medical school curriculum for some reason. We can just leave it at that. But you talked about warning labels. It's interesting to note that the scientists that actually study circadian biology, they had a study of 248 of the leading circadian biology scientists. It was a requirement that they had like 2 or 3 papers that are peer reviewed, signed with a certain budget. Like these are real scientists, not like a Twitter poll of guys in their basement or something that holds no value. This is the leading experts on circadian biology came to the consensus that our blue-enriched LED bulbs that are in everybody's house today should come with a warning label on them, harmful if used at night. So if we had a warning label on that, on our bulbs, don't you think more people would know about it? Like once it becomes mainstream and once we actually make that shift to where, like a pack of cigarettes, the warning label on it, once it becomes, warning label type stuff where we're putting this face up for people, or we're putting, automatic software in place on phones and kids' devices where it automatically shifts to red after sunset based on your geolocation. And if you want to turn it off, there should be a pop-up warning that says, are you sure you want to do this? Or you're going to have to, put in some parental code to turn it off. That's where we're heading. And it's just a matter of like raising enough awareness to get people to realize that these are the type of things that actually need to happen, and not because it's my opinion or your opinion, but there's tons of medical research out there on this that just hasn't been widely accepted or acknowledged yet. And so it's all about raising awareness is kind of what we're doing. That's why you started the Quantum Biology Collective, and to train practitioners and doctors on the most important aspects of health and physiology that they haven't been taught yet, right? So
yeah. And it's so interesting. It's like if all of the scientists and researchers who study circadian biology can all come to agreement, which is, unusual to have a consensus like that. That means something's very, very clear. They all agree that blue-enriched LED bulbs are harmful to use at night. And yet, crickets, right? It's like, the science, that is, I feel like in the cigarette situation, right? Like there were people who were, activists for decades trying to get some awareness around the potential toxicity of cigarette smoke, and they kept getting pushed off. And they're like, no, we have to wait until there's conclusive evidence, conclusive proof, till we have the mechanism of action of exactly how it causes lung cancer. We don't have to do anything. And then when that finally came through, that's when all the, the warning labels and the laws started to shift. But in this situation, it's the other way around. We have the proof. It is conclusive that artificial light at night causes and leads to all kinds of chronic disease. And yet it's still up to us, people like us being on the internet, being like, let's do this, let's try that, to get the word out.
It's like, you think about it this way. If we had gone back to the 1950s, you see pictures of doctors, nurses, just all smoking cigarettes in the patients' rooms and stuff. If we were to go in and explain to them, what are you guys doing? Don't you know smoking's bad for your health? They would have looked at you like you're crazy. Get out of here. Everybody's doing it. How can it be bad? That's where we're at with blue light, blue enriched light from our devices and our bulbs in the evening. We're in that same spot that if we talk to people about this, their evidence that it's fine is that everybody's doing it. They don't actually have a scientific rebuttal of thousands of studies that say, no, blue light is actually not harmful to our body. No, the only actual defense is everybody's doing it. It's fine. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at. So if you think about smoking I'm saying the blue light in the evening is worse for people than smoking. So here's my case for that. Smoking can only lead to lung cancer, emphysema, and I believe stroke. And there may be a couple other little things, right? But everybody knows that smoking is inherently bad for us. It's common knowledge now. It didn't used to be. And now we're in the same boat with blue light at night, except blue light at night is worse because it can lead to and has led to the higher incidence in diabetes, obesity, depression, ADHD, thyroid conditions, cardiometabolic issues, inflammation, all forms of cancer, not just lung cancer, neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's, dementia, and it messes with our energy levels and all kinds of mood and psychiatric disorders and sleep issues, fatigue, insomnia. So compare those lists. Which one sounds worse, smoking or blue light at night? Like, honestly, if I had my choice to walk in and see a group of my loved ones chain smoking cigarettes in the dark at night, or sitting in a blue lit room with all the LEDs on and looking at their iPad screens with the TV on at full factory settings, I would choose to see them all chain smoking cigarettes because it will be far less harmful to their health. So now it's just a matter of how do we get society to shift their mindset on blue light the same way that we've already shifted it on smoking to know that it's bad for us. And the only way to do that is through awareness. And that's kind of what our mission in life is right now. Meredith, like, once people like you and I have felt the true impacts of how much circadian rhythm lifestyle improvements have improved our lives, now it's like we want this for everybody else. Like, we have to, it's like our mission we don't want to see our family get any of these health conditions that I listed off. Of course we don't, but how do we get through to them to make these changes? That's like the hardest thing. How do we wake people up out of blue light toxic circadian disrupted states in which they have no idea that they're actually in? It's quite the dilemma, right?
Yeah. And when you first hear it, it sounds crazy, but it also sounds hard, right? Like, this is so embedded in our life. Like, I'm sorry, I have to, what? You want me to stop doing this? Like, I need to. But at the same time, you think about the smoking and it's like, we felt, we sort of had this idea, well, let's just smoke. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, it's just air. It's not, the DEET that they sprayed on everything back in the 60s and 70s, right? It's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. And now the more you understand about biology, the more you realize that it's not fine, that it's having like really harmful effects on our bodies. And so I think we're at the point now with light where it's like where we were with DEET or cigarette smoking, where we don't have like a framework to understand how light could be affecting our biology. Mm-hmm. So how would you explain that to somebody? They're like, all right, Jeff. So you're telling me that the light is having an effect on me physically and is changing my health? Like, I'm not a plant. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. To anyone that said that, I would answer that we kind of are like plants. And the sooner you start thinking about it that way, the sooner you'll be able to actually see life from a quantum perspective. Like for those family and friends of mine that I'll be sending this podcast to, you're wondering what quantum biology collective means. Quantum means energy. We are affected by energy. Light is energy. And I guess the first starting point that I would give people is everybody knows that we synthesize vitamin D from sunlight. Different wavelengths of energy create different energetic and biochemical reactions in our body. So like light is a drug. Energy and different wavelengths is like different drugs, different medications, essentially. So let's talk about vitamin D. Wavelength ranges that create that in our body are 290 to 315 nanometer UVB light, which is only available at midday. Everybody knows that, right? So we know that we synthesize a hormone from light. Well, there's different wavelengths of energy, colors as they become more in the visible spectrum that affect our body differently. Like UVA light, which is slightly less intense than UVB, is 320 to 380 nanometers. And that's been shown to lower our blood pressure. It increases nitric oxide, and it increases blood flow, increases heart rate variability, releases, like I said, nitric oxide into our system. And just moving up the spectrum, every different wavelength affects our body in different ways. So once we get up into blue light, which there's thousands of studies that purport what I'm about to say, blue light, which is heavily prevalent now in our screens and LED bulbs, which never existed in all of human history because it didn't exist in firelight. Unless you're staring at the base of a bonfire, you weren't getting any melatonin suppression. And then with the incandescent bulbs, which is all we had up until like the 1950s, there was very minimal melatonin suppression. So this is a completely novel new light spectrum that exists in our environment for the first time in human history. And the blue light in the 445 to 495 nanometer wavelength range is proven to suppress our melatonin. And melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It is an antioxidant. It's our natural anti-cancer hormone, essentially, that runs through our body and takes out all the bad cells in the evening. So anytime we're doing something as innocent as staring at our phone at full factory settings without night shift, without the red color filter, we're taking away our body's anti-cancer hormone and stopping it from working. And so can you see why the drastic rise in cancer over the past 25, 30 years, it all starts to make sense.
It's the isolated blue light.
Exactly. Yeah.
That comes out of the devices and the light bulbs that our bodies don't know what to do with because isolated blue light doesn't exist in nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So like in nature, the full moon, which is all the only light we had, full moon in addition to candles and stuff, full moon is 0.1 lux. Our screens are around 200 lux. So that's 2,000 times greater light intensity that we're just shining into our eyes with our handheld devices that we carry with us everywhere. It's like we're carrying around our own light bulbs, our own energy emission devices. You know, if light is a drug, and it is because a drug is something that we ingest that creates a biochemical response. So if light is a drug, then our LED devices, our light emitting diodes, are actually, you could call them DEDs for drug emitting diodes. We're literally creating biochemical reaction and driving energetic processes in our bodies through our phones. Like the light doesn't exist on that flat device separate from us. It's emitted into our eyes and driving the biological processes. And so that's the biggest shift that is the hardest for people to make. It's like light is just light. The screen is just the screen that's there. No, it's not. It's energy that's coming into us. So every different wavelength, creates different different reactions in our body, like 660 nanometer red light. There was a good study on this that came out recently. Just for 20 minutes of 660 nanometer red light lowers blood glucose levels by 27%. And, red light has also been shown to reduce acne, psoriasis, rosacea, pain relief. It increases collagen in our skin, decreases wrinkles, helps with wound healing, and improves sleep by actually creating melatonin, which our body then releases in the evening. 810 nanometer wavelength ranges have been shown to accelerate bone regeneration. And, I could go on down the list. There's more infrared studies that I could cite, but the main point that I want to drive people to kind of understand, if they're just hearing this for the first time, is when we talk about quantum biology, it is the admission and the recognition of the true nature of our reality is that the first law of thermodynamics, you don't have to be a physicist to understand this. Energy does not ever get destroyed. It only changes form. And so when energy interacts with our body, it's not like when sunlight hits a house and it just absorbs the heat. We are a biological system. And so that energy becomes energy in us. It doesn't just hit our eyes and form an image and stop. It actually, we have non-visual photoreceptors that pass along that information, and it drives biological processes in our body. And so that's kind of just to tie this up. Like, once you actually come to that realization, once somebody can come to this realization of what quantum actually means, and the admission of that, like, the first law of thermodynamics actually applies to us too, not just every other piece of matter and organism on this planet. It applies to us too. Of course it does. Then
say what you mean by that, the first law of thermodynamics. Say more.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. The energy cannot be destroyed; it only changes form. So, of course, when energy of light, or when energy, even if it's non-visible, UVA, UVB, or infrared, or even some of our wireless devices, we are affected by all wavelengths of energy. And so, it's only once somebody's mind is able to make that leap, that jump, to actually realize that we are quantum beings, that we're affected by energy, then and only then will the studies on red light start to make sense. Then and only then will the studies on grounding start to make sense. If you stand on the earth with your bare feet, I remember the first time I heard one of these studies, Meredith, it's like, oh, this is, this can't be true. I don't know, just the way that our minds have been programmed to think that we are a closed system that aren't affected by any energy or electrons or anything like that, it won't make sense. But once you make the quantum leap, then it starts to make sense. Then you're like, oh, maybe I will try just standing on my concrete patio outside in the mornings, or maybe I will look into red light. Like, I ended up getting my mom and dad a red light therapy. Like, it's becoming more mainstream. People are figuring this out. It's like I think this period of time, Meredith, that we're going through is going to be kind of classified in the history books as the light revolution. Like, people are figuring out what Dr. Jacob Lieberman wrote about in his presciently titled book in 1990, 24 years ago. He wrote a book called Light, Medicine of the Future. And that future is finally here. Like, we're kind of finally starting to realize that, slowly but surely. And that's why, so many people out there have tried the circadian lifestyle and seen huge benefits. And, we could get into some of those stories. I've been on a mission to record. I recorded your story, Meredith. I recorded, I think, 55 people's stories, because I know that that's really what's going to get people to change their ways. They got to know what's in it for me. Like, what have other people experienced? So I've been gathering these stories, and we're going to be sharing them on our CRD challenge page, trying to convince people to try this stuff. But yeah, we could get into that, or if you have any other.
Okay, yeah. So let's just wrap up quickly on the frequencies. So
Yeah,
just to clarify sort of what you're saying for, for someone who's new to this, is that the energy that comes into our bodies, especially light going into our eyeballs, has profound effects on our physiology. And it could be argued whether it is by accident or by design. I don't necessarily want to get into that, but we have ended up with technology that has focused light in a way that is pretty much as toxic as you could possibly get. It's just isolated blue and white light that we're putting into our eyes at times of day when we would never naturally have access to that if we live by the natural light and dark cycles of the sun.
100%.
And so when we're outside, the light coming into our eyes from the sun, our body understands how to read that. And the light coming off these devices, our body is put into incoherence.
Exactly. It's the most unnatural alien light spectrum that ever existed. Like, no matter what your belief system, like if you believe in God, maybe when God said, "Let there be light," he meant the full spectrum light that exists outside. And he didn't mean this artificially created, do whatever we want because the laws of nature don't apply to us. Arrogance of humans have developed. That is not what we need. That's becoming abundantly clear. So what's going to happen over the next few decades is, our screens are going to automatically shift to red. We're not going to have people take any steps. It's going to be in the same way that we have your car starts dinging to put on your seatbelt. Your phone's going to have some type of alerting mechanism to alert you when your child is using a device at full factory settings after sunset. It's going to be common knowledge, but for now, it's just most people are kind of asleep to this inherent truth of the universe, that, we are energetic beings, and the first law of thermodynamics does apply to us too. Of course it does. That's the awakening is kind of happening.
In that little window where we're about to figure it out, but it's still kind of like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, wait, what's organic food? Why would we eat that? Like, we're just sort of in that place, but it's going to change. Yeah. And it's going to change, sadly, because we've made ourselves so sick.
Yeah.
However, I think the good news is that as detrimental as some of our habits are with technology, when we put our bodies in the environment that they're meant to be in, they do have the capacity to heal. And you have like a nice long list of people that you interviewed who have had really transformational experiences just by optimizing their circadian rhythm. So why don't we get into that?
Yeah, it's huge. So for those that, it's almost like you try to explain the science to people and it doesn't really resonate with them. But I think the stories are pretty impactful. And so let's start with your story, Meredith. So I remember your story was that you had complete debilitating chronic fatigue. And this is right around the time that, was it the iPad or the Kindle came out, and you were a big reader and you were reading on your device instead. And so you're shining that melatonin suppressing light into your eyes every single night. And then maybe you could kind of share your brief story. Where did you go from there? How did you figure out how to fix your chronic fatigue?
Yeah, so that was sort of the main thing that I identified. And then once was the reading of the iPad. I had always read books before bed with kind of like a dimmer bulb. Just intuitively, I didn't like bright LEDs in my bedroom. But when that app came out where you could have access to basically every book in the world for like $9 a month or something, I was like, woohoo! So I switched to reading on my iPad. So that was the first major thing that I changed when I started to understand how important this is. because I would sleep for 10 hours and wake up feeling exhausted, right? Like my sleep was not able, excuse me, my sleep was not able to do what sleep is supposed to do, which is to restore, to be a period of restoration. And once I put the iPad away, and then it led to going outside more. And then that led to like keeping having dimmer light in the house. And then that led to like going on the internet and finding some random place to sell the weird glasses. And my family was like, what? But it worked,
Right.
It worked. And I was able to restore my energy in a way that I wasn't when I did food and supplements and all kinds of other things.
Yeah. And so that's a good point. So many people out there today are suffering from debilitating chronic fatigue, and they have no idea why. They're going to their doctors for medical advice, and a lot of times being given prescriptions when all they really needed to do is reduce the amount of blue light exposure in the evening, and couple that with getting outside more to get the energetic influence of morning light that has on our body. But your story kind of leads me to Dr. Kelly Bento's story. So she had an interesting one. So she was kind of doing the same thing as you. At one point, when her son was starting to apply for college, she shifted into a nighttime mode where she would stay up late on her computer at full factory settings, researching schools and whatever else. And she just got into that habit of becoming kind of a night owl and being on her screens. And she couldn't figure out why she started gaining weight. She had gained 30 some pounds, and she started worrying, oh, maybe I have a thyroid condition. And so she started going to her medical doctors, and they wanted to give her, prescriptions and things like that, because that's our answer for everything today, sadly. But then she started researching quantum biology, and she started to realize that, blue light exposure in the evening actually raises our glucose and insulin levels. Maybe I need to start wearing blue blockers or changing the color temperature of my screen. And then she said, once she started doing that, within a matter of weeks, the scale just started ticking down, and it just slowly but surely started ticking down. So many people out there need to be aware of her story. She's not the only one that lost weight. There's tons of people. There's tons of others. So if anybody out there is experiencing weight issues, no matter how much they work out or, diet, consider going on a light diet. Consider blocking that blue light in the evening. So let's just move down.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to touch on that a bit more,
Sure.
because I think a lot of times it's so demoralizing when we're trying to lose weight, because we think I just have to do more, harder. And every person that I've talked to, and it sounds like you as well, who has switched to a more quantum friendly lifestyle, they've all told me that they weigh less, look better, and work out less frequently. They still work out, but they don't do it as hard. It's like we always think that the answer is going to be in the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
We're always trying to compensate for anything by like, we'll just go to the gym more. That is something that so many of us believe. And from a quantum perspective, that's just not the answer.
Exactly.
Part of the answer, but not the whole thing.
Yeah, like Dr. Max Culhane, when I interviewed him, I asked some of the most common improvements that he sees in his patients who he gets to implement these circadian lifestyle habits. The most common one, weight loss. Just from getting outside in the morning and blocking blue light at night, weight starts magically falling off. It happens for almost all of his people. It happens for me. It happened for Kelly Bento, so many others. It's almost like looking back through time, Meredith. Remember, you see group pictures of people at the beach in the 1950s, 60s. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just in great shape. Like if we saw a big group of people like that today at the beach, we'd think, oh, they're probably a bunch of health nuts. They're probably on a right. But
that's true. That just used to be standard.
That came naturally to us back then. Now, of course, we have seed oils and we have all this new stuff. Our food's changed a little bit since then, and that probably is a contributing factor. But most people find this hard to believe, but most of that change in body type is because of our light environment, from living 95% of our life indoors and then using all this artificial light, which raises our glucose and insulin levels. And remember
it's
that
so
once,
true. And you have people who are working so hard to eat well, right? And it's like you've used all of this willpower and discipline to maintain some kind of special low calorie diet or whatever it is, and then you go and sit in front of your laptop all night watching a movie, and it's like you may as well have eaten a hot fudge sundae. And that is such a hard one for people to wrap their minds around. But it's so,
I try to tell people,
it's like,
if light is a drug, imagine if you're looking at your screen at full factory settings at night, it's kind of like you have an IV drip connected to your eyeball that is giving you a slow drip injection of like a donut, just like a little bit of glucose and insulin, slow pump. It doesn't happen immediately, but slowly over time, that's what happens. One of the interesting studies on this topic, before we move on, is Dr. Martin Moore-Eade referenced a study in his book, The Light Doctor, which found that they could render someone into a pre-diabetic state overnight just from sleeping with blue-enriched lights on. So just that blue light exposed to the skin, because our eyes are closed, it's not getting through there when you're sleeping, creates that much glucose and insulin that you will appear to be pre-diabetic if you were to get your labs taken in the morning after sleeping with LED lights on. And yet nobody has any clue that, light has that effect on our body. More and more people are waking up to it. I think we're probably at maybe, what's your guesstimate? Like 0.5% of the population maybe has any clue this is real?
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, it's a guess. But so moving on, depression. Let's talk about that for a minute. My good friend and new business partner, Daniel White, he grew up as a teenager. He got big into gaming, staying up until midnight, 2, 3 a.m. sometimes, just gaming, full factory setting screens, no idea that it was causing any harm to his body. And he gained 100 pounds. And he was overweight. He was depressed. He was suicidal. And, thankfully he figured out all this light stuff. And once he started getting his circadian rhythm in order, all those extra 100 pounds fell off. He's no longer depressed or, anxiety or all these other symptoms that he had. He feels like me. He feels like a whole new person. So many people say that I feel like a new person, just from trying these simple circadian lifestyle habits. And so moving on from his story, our other business partner, Lauren, she couldn't figure out why her menstrual cycle wasn't regular for years. It was causing her so much frustration and pain. She had anxiety, fatigue. And once she started getting her circadian rhythm in order, within a matter of, I forget how long, not too long, all these symptoms started going away. It's like these circadian lifestyle interventions are nature's medicine. They're God's medicine. Whatever your belief system is, nature provides. God provides this free of charge. And most people can't even fathom that all these changes are attainable from from a protocol that's this simple. Like, good health is supposed to be hard, right? And so Avi, Lauren's husband, he started noticing that, again, he started feeling like a whole new, improved, better version of himself, just greater energy, greater like downloads, almost like his meditations are deeper. He feels more connected to himself. That's one aspect that so many people have said too. There's something that we don't measure scientifically, which is our connection to ourself or to God or something greater than us. That's something that he said he noticed as well. And so Daniel, Lauren, Avi, and me are all on a mission. Like, we feel like new people, and now we want everyone to experience this. And so that's why we kind of set up what we were doing. So just moving down the list for anybody out
set
there.
up the CRD. Yeah, let's get into the CRD challenge.
Okay.
So you mentioned something earlier that's really important, which is that it's very hard to make big changes on our own, right? It's very hard to change something by ourselves if we don't have anyone modeling the behavior, reflecting it back to us, people who are a little farther down, who are a little ahead of us on the path, giving us guidance, people coming up behind us that we can pass on what we've learned to, right? Like there's a reason that, change happens in communities, to like 12-step communities or different, or groups. People need to come together in order to truly transform. It's very difficult to do in isolation.
Exactly.
And so what you guys have created is a challenge where everybody who's curious or interested are like, all right, I guess I'll give this a shot. You've created a way for people to do it without being alone. You've created a community. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest aspects of this is that sense of community. I was kind of doing all this stuff alone, having to go down the I think I listened to almost every Quantum Biology Collective podcast early last year when I started doing this, just having to disseminate the information myself and piece it all together and kind of determine what the true science is behind all this stuff, because you get differing opinions from different sources. And so what we thought we'd do is, give people the entire playbook that's required to know basically, the X, Y, and Z that you need to do throughout the day and the science behind it. So we deliver that within a community where you can watch that content or read it if that's your preference on your own time. But there's also like a forum where people will be able to ask any of the questions on this entirely new paradigm of health that they have no clue about. In terms of all the questions that are going to come up related to this, as far as, do I have to be outside right when the sun crests over the horizon? No, you don't. Just get outside the way that humans have done for millennia. As soon as you get up in the morning, it's not that hard. Like, it's so simple once you look back on it. But when it's an entirely new concept, it's really hard to kind of grasp the magnitude of how much this actually impacts people's health, because you start explaining this to people and they think, oh, well, this is like a whole group of things that I have to do now in my life, and it's only going to move the needle a little bit. It's something that maybe people that already have their health optimized do, just to put something at the tip of the pyramid of their health for a little add-on. No. This is like the base level of the pyramid of health that every single human being on the planet should know about, whether no matter how healthy you are, what your lifestyle is like, it doesn't matter. If you should be blocking blue light at night and getting outside in the morning. And, the community is a place where you don't have to do this alone. Like I felt that I had to do it. You don't have to, go searching through hours and hours and hours of podcasts, or go on PubMed and read 500 plus studies like I've had to read, like, in order to piece this together. We disseminated all the most useful information, and it's all broken down in the school group into 20, 25 minutes of content for each week. So we think about, you listen to an hour and a half podcast or two each week. What if you spent an hour and a half over 3 weeks learning the most important aspects of health that you've never been taught yet? So that's kind of what we're wanting to give to as many people as possible for free. And then if that's not enough, you have more burning questions, we'll have other ways for you to get, more information beyond that. So that's kind of where we're going with that. But
it sounds great because it's wonderful to bring in as many people as possible. And we're going to, we always kind of wait for the tipping point. Like, oh, I wonder when that's going to change. I wonder when this is going to change. And it's like, we get to choose. We get to choose when it's going to change by doing things in the world and creating opportunities for that change to happen. So much gratitude to you for being tenacious in your passion to get this out to people. I think it's going to be so helpful, change a lot of lives, and be a really great way for people to come in and understand that this matters so much more than we've ever been led to believe. And so where can people find the challenge?
Yeah, so it's you can go to our website, the CRD Challenge for Circadian Rhythm Disruption. So the CRDchallenge.com. You can find us on Instagram at the CRD Challenge, and Facebook. You can just look up the CRD Challenge. But really, to drive this point home, I kind of want to just say, I don't need to go down the list of full 20 other people's stories that I started going down. But if you know anyone in your family you care about, if you don't ever want to see them get cancer, get them a pair of blue blockers, have them sign up for the CRD Challenge. There's so many people that have experienced their thyroid conditions go away, their depression goes away, their acne. So many people, if you know anyone that is trying to get pregnant before they spend $100,000 on IVF, just try the circadian lifestyle, please. So many health coaches out there curing stomach issues, Hashimoto's, IBS, Crohn's. So many people saying they feel like new, happier versions of themselves. So I encourage anybody and everybody to sign up, try this for 3 weeks, and you will notice the dial has started going up. You will notice it. And then if you keep up with that lifestyle after that for months at a time, you may see your chronic health conditions start to alleviate. You may find that people in your family who are suffering with depression, they can cure that. We're not making any promises, but this circadian lifestyle is everybody's birthright to experience. The only thing you have to do is make the commitment to do it consistently. And I think that kind of speaks for itself. Put it to the test, please, everybody, the way that I did, and you will find that it does move the needle, and you may never go back to your old way of living again, hopefully.
Yes. Yes. Great point. Don't take our words for it. Just give it a try and see what happens and let us know. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and for creating the challenge and doing all the things.
Thank you, Meredith. Appreciate you having me.
Woohoo! You made it to the end of another episode. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploratory adventure into new realms. Your energy and support are building a different world, and I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Take care, and thanks.